Hey YouTubers, it's 9week19 here with my review for episode 16 of The Flash, Rogue Time. Now as always, I'm going to give you a recap of the episode, give you my overall rating, and right down to my top 5 moments. So, starting with the recap. As Barry begins to relive the previous day, Dr. Wells realizes what happened and warns Barry not to change any event for fear that he will create a bigger problem as the universe balances itself. Barry doesn't listen and instead captures Mark Martin before he can kidnap Joe. Meanwhile, Leonard Snart and Mick Roy return to Central City. Leonard sends his sister Liza after Cisco, whom they force to rebuild the cold and heat guns, and a third gun for Liza that turns people into gold, under threat that they will kill Cisco's brother. Barry realizes that Dr. Wells was right, and his actions have resulted in Cisco's kidnapping and Iris rejecting his romantic advances. Cisco returns and reveals that Leonard tortured his brother until Cisco revealed the Flash's true identity. Barry goes after the Snarts and the two develop an uneasy truce. Snart will not reveal Barry's identity, will no longer kill innocent people, and stay away from Barry's friends in exchange for Barry not locking him away in the particle accelerator. The Reverse Flash kills Mason Bridge, Iris' supervisor at the Picture News, and destroys evidence linking Dr. Wells to the death of Simon Stagg. Bridge's vanishing causes Barry to think Joe might be right about Dr. Wells. So, overall, I am giving this episode a 9.5. This episode does a really good job of explaining the effects of time travel. They didn't really go into that idea of time travel, like how it works, but Harrison Wells, or Eobor Thawne, whoever you want to think about it, being that he's from the future, knows so much about time travel. He said that time is a fragile construct and that even if you change one little thing, it can result in messing up the time stream. Barry pointed out that he will go back in time someday, however, what he doesn't know is that the Reverse Flash wasn't after his mom. He was after Barry. So Barry will eventually learn that he has to save himself, and doing so will result in his mom dying. Wells said it himself in this episode. He told Barry just imagine how many people could die if he saved his mom. This is like alluding to the Flashpoint storyline in the comics. I've said this many times, but it could be possible that the show is doing an adaptation of Flashpoint, not an entire storyline, like they're not copying and pasting from this comic, but like their version of Flashpoint. Barry accidentally going back in time does advance the plot, however, because now he will be investigating Wells. There are only 7 episodes left in the season, so I think now is the best time for Barry to realize that Harrison Wells is not the man he thought he was. So, now into Easter eggs. We get to meet Liza Snart in this episode. She was featured in episode 10, but it was like a brief moment. We didn't really get to see her face. The actor who plays Liza, her name is Peyton List. She was on the Tomorrow People with Robbie Amell. Liza Snart in the comics is Golden Glider. Before the New 52, she had ice skates that could generate ice. However, in the New 52, she was given the ability of astral projection. She was given a gun just like everybody else on the Rogues. Her gun could turn anyone into gold. The Rogues were finally given their team name on screen. It's funny how Barry gave them that name. It'd be something that Cisco would do. The whole talk in the forest Barry and Leonard Snart had actually resembles part of the Rogues' code of honor in the comics. The Rogues don't kill women and children, and they don't kill speedsters. On the show, it was kind of different. The Rogues don't kill anyone, men, women, or children, and the Rogues can't hurt any of Barry's family or friends, or else Barry will send them in the pipeline. Everything else was pretty much references to last week's episode, Brain Freeze, Weather Wizard, Cisco, You're Like a Son to Me. I forgot to mention this in last week's episode, but I did love the moment before Wells kills Cisco and tells him that he's like a son to him. I find it really great when villains are given emotions like compassion. It makes them even more great of a villain, and Tom Cavanaugh is a great example of that. And now that I'm talking about all the references from last week's episode, it was really great seeing Barry relive a day in his life he already lived. It was really awkward seeing Barry fail at trying to get Iris to admit feelings for him. Wells explained it perfectly. Iris does have those feelings for Barry, however, the circumstances she was in the previous episode, with the tidal wave coming in towards the city, she was capable of admitting those feelings. However, now she can't admit those feelings because she's not in those circumstances. It's like you're in a life or death situation and you tell somebody something you've always wanted to tell them before you die, and in this case, Iris and Barry were in that kind of situation. I do have to say that it was a bummer to see Eddie punch Barry and then afterwards they make up for it. I feel like this moment would have been great for Eddie to become either the Cobalt Blue character or the Zoom Reverse Flash. Surely there'll be something else that pushes Eddie to become either one of those characters. So, now into my top 5 moments, starting with number 5, meet Dante Ramon. I feel like part of the reason for why the writers gave Cisco this arc with his brother being the family favorite is to prevent his character from being just comic relief. Comic relief characters are humorous characters that relieve the tension of dramatic events. Cisco is somewhat of this. I mean, he is a comical character, however, oftentimes he does relieve the tension of the plot. Comic relief characters can be beneficial or they cannot be beneficial. You don't want a character of a drama show to primarily exist for humor. You have to give them an arc, just like everybody else on the show. Cisco has had a couple arcs this season, feeling guilty for Ronnie's quote-unquote death and dealing with the idea that Wells is the Reverse Flash. However, this arc is really great for Cisco. It just shows that Cisco doesn't feel the same type of affection from his parents that they give to Dante, and that really makes you look at Cisco in a different way. Number 4, meet Liza Snart, aka Golden Glider. Number 3, Barry and Leonard Snart form the Rogue Code of Honor. Number 2, Wells kills Mason Bridge. So if you weren't following on this plot, Mason was investigating Wells because he believed he had something to do with Simon Stagg's disappearance. And if you don't remember, Wells killed Stagg in episode 2. Bridge was going to post an article on the newspaper, however Wells, as the Reverse Flash, showed up and stopped him from doing so. The real question is, how did Wells know about Bridge in the article he was writing about? My guess is that he either knew Bridge was writing about the article because he's from the future, or that he caught on to Bridge being a stalker. Mason Bridge is sort of a pivotal character in the past couple of episodes. Because of his disappearance, this leads to Barry starting to investigate Wells himself. Just think of it as like a role reversal. Bridge was investigating Wells because of the fact that Wells was the last person to see Stagg the night he disappeared. Now Barry's going to investigate Wells because Bridge disappeared and he was investigating Wells. And my number 1 moment, Barry believes that Joe may be right about Wells. So that's it for my review for this episode. Tell me what you thought of this episode in the comments below and subscribe for more reviews on The Flash. Subscribe to my other channel, Jedi Knight 450, and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Tumblr for updates on The Flash, Gotham, and more. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.